Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RunIowa podcast. This is episode 96. I'm Rob Lindquist.
This is Dave Kading.
And we're here to rock and roll today. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah,
we're out of school, man.
We are.
We're on vacation.
Well, we're like 80% out of school.
Yeah, we're actually still at school. But, you know what I mean. In this episode, we are going to review Hal Higdon's half marathon training book.
Yes, we are.
We're going to talk with Mike J. from nextleveliowa.com and our of the weeks.
Sounds like a great show.
Sounds like a great episode. Thanks for sticking with us on episode 96 of the RunIowa podcast. All right, Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. We're on our every 2 week schedule now for the summer, as a reminder for everybody.
Yes, we are.
Not because, it's because we're so busy running all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, not me.
No, it's
having a kid is hard on my running schedule.
Yeah, well, it is. So tomorrow is day one of my Chicago Marathon training.
Nice.
So
well, and actually, now that we brought that up on air, I plan on doing something.
Right.
The initial plan, and you guys that listen to the podcast regularly know this, that my initial plan is to do a triathlon.
Right.
I think I'm going to change that.
Yes, Rob.
Yeah.
What are you changing it to?
I actually think I want to do an ultra.
Good.
Maybe start with a 50K or maybe just say screw it and go with a 50 miler. But I want to do an ultra, and I have a legit reason. The baby thing is it's hard to get out and do like a swim or a bike with a new baby, but I can put a baby in a running stroller and push.
Right.
So I'm thinking I'm going to start a marathon schedule this week or next week or whenever I can. Hopefully today, maybe.
Right.
But just start on a marathon schedule and just kind of go with it.
Right.
And then when I get going in the thralls of summer and things like that, then say, okay, let's amp this up to whether it's a 50K or a 50 mile or whatever I decide to do.
So I'm thinking what I'm hearing is that you're signing up for the Hitchcock 100.
So actually, legitimately, I might. I haven't done it yet. And I would love to support that local race for us.
And we've watched it.
Yeah, we volunteered at it. We've been there.
So I'll bring the stretcher.
Right. But no, I do want to challenge myself in a different way than just another marathon. And so the idea was a triathlon, but the training for the swimming is just, it would be too much for my wife, for me and for my wife, because she'll be heading back to work here in the near future. And so me home alone with 3 kids, it's going to be fun. That'll cut back on my training schedule.
You might be running more. Because
maybe
it might be the only chance you have to get out of the house.
Well, my oldest now can ride a bike.
Yeah.
Right. And so
she could go with you.
Right. And my littlest, just put in a stroller. We do have
running. I wonder if there's such thing as a running backpack.
I've seen like the hikers' backpacks,
right?
With the babies and stuff in there.
We did one of those when we went to Colorado.
I would assume
20 years ago.
I would assume that the baby probably needs to be able to hold his head up first. But yeah, so
and if you couldn't tell from the noise, that was my bobblehead imitation.
Yes, it was. The visual of it was amazing too. But no, that's the plan. It's so I do want to do an ultra, I think, and that's where I want to go next. And I also want to get a running tattoo.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm having a midlife crisis.
You are at 30.
I just had a birthday. I'm 34 now.
Oh, 34.
Yeah, I'm getting up there. I'm almost catching up to you.
Almost. Every year you get one step closer, but 2 steps further away.
That's right. Exactly. All right, so we want to start a review today.
Yes, we are.
And this review is going to be of Hal Higdon's newest, one of his 2 newest books that he's just put out. It's called The Half Marathon Training, and you can find that pretty much everywhere. You can find a book. Go online, go to his website, go to Amazon.
Right.
Wherever you want. And just speaking of Hal, we're going to have him on our 100th episode later this summer.
Yes. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome episode. Lots of stuff we're going to do with that episode. Come on, it's Hal Higdon.
Right, it's Hal Higdon. Right, and
if you're a runner, you know who Hal Higdon is.
Absolutely. Anybody who's anybody. I shouldn't say anybody.
Right.
Everybody in the last 10 years, 15 years, who's wanted to run some type of marathon, whether it's a half, a full, even go as far as saying 10Ks.
10Ks
and they're like, I've never run before. I want to run. I need a training program. You know who Hal Higdon is.
Right.
Because you type in training schedules, and one of the first ones that pops up, if not the first one, is Hal Higdon. And he's got great training schedules out there. They're easy to follow.
I would go as far to say that everybody who's run a sanctioned race of some sort, a road running race of some sort, has probably at very least looked at one of the plans and incorporated it into whatever plan that they're doing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would not think that's too far fetched to say.
I mean, I know you and I have both.
My very first one.
Used his training programs.
And he has an app with it and all this stuff. But we have his book, and really it's kind of cool because this is tailored to half marathons.
Right.
And so I'm going to give a review of the book.
Awesome.
Knowing full well that I didn't read every single page. I read a lot of it already. And that's kind of like every book I read. I read most of it.
Read the highlights.
But I will say that I enjoyed what I read because I wasn't expecting it. I didn't, it's a Hal Higdon book, so yes, there are race plans in here and training schedules and stuff like that. But really, the part that I liked the most about the book was the very beginning where he got into the history of the half marathon, and I didn't think about that, how relatively new it is. So that's something that kind of took me back a little bit was, and I get it. We were just joking how young I am. But half marathon started in the 70s.
Right.
Really like becoming popular and that sort of thing.
Right.
And so,
it's become even more popular in the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And in his book, at the beginning of the book, Hal really gets into, the history, the actual nuts and bolts of how half marathons kind of became popular. And it talks about how they weren't even called half marathons. It was a hardathon, and the largest half marathon in the United States happens in Indianapolis, the Mini Indy or something like that. And it has 40-some thousand, I think I read. 40-some thousand runners. That seems like a lot, but I'm going to flip through the page and find that actual number here. Hold on. It's right here.
Well, then I'll talk.
Yeah, well, and the other one was, the oldest actual sanctioned is in Delaware, I think.
Right.
And it only has 1,200 runners, even today, as the oldest sanctioned one.
Well, the biggest thing, and I think what makes this book a fun read for anybody who likes running stuff, is if you look at events, if you go back to the 60s and earlier, that it was the mile, everybody, I'm a distance runner, I want to be a mile. And then it was the 5K, 10K, and Prefontaine and that group of runners. And marathon, even in the Olympics, it was like that fringe running event that people really didn't pay a lot of attention to. And then in the 70s and the running boom of the 70s and 80s, people started running marathons, but the half marathon wasn't. It was kind of like that, redheaded stepchild of the marathon world. But now it's become popular, and I noticed I was reading an article online a while ago, and how some of these Olympic marathon runners and Boston qualifiers and winners and stuff, they're in this, all right, I've run this, I've pretty much accomplished everything I can running the marathon. Maybe I'm a top 5 marathon finisher, but I'm not going to win all these marathons because I can't beat, I'm an elite runner, but I'm not the fastest runner. Right. So maybe I'm getting 5ths and 6ths and 7ths. And they're like, what are you going to, well, I'm going to try to run, I want to run some half marathons, and they're trying to break records because the elite marathon runners are still running marathons. And these ones that are elite, and maybe they're just a little past their prime or just not quite as fast. Right. They're running halves because
killing them. Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, maybe I'm 26 is just stretch me a little bit. Right. I can run the 13 as fast as any of them. And
I don't think that's a knock on anything.
Not at all.
Still, I mean, this mentions in the book, it's just 13 miles. Right. It's like, that's still a long way.
Well, and the thing, and I think it's the same thing, is if you look at the fastest, with Nike and those guys trying to break the 2-hour marathon record with all their stuff. So let's say, 2 hours and 25 seconds is now the fastest marathon time. Is that runner more elite or more impressive than Usain Bolt running?
Right. The 108 seconds.
Right. So it doesn't matter the distance. Right. If you're the fastest at that distance, you're a kick butt runner.
Oh, absolutely.
Period. and you found your spot where you run. So
Right.
like you said, it's not a knock by any means.
To clarify the number I was saying before, the mini Indy has about 23,000 runners.
23,000 runners.
The world's largest half marathon is in Gothenburg, Sweden, and it has about 47,000.
Holy cow!
So
That's cool.
That's nuts,
Right.
you know. And so this book really gets into. Sorry, I'm away from the microphone there. Actually, our listeners might like that. Yep. The book really gets into the history a little bit, and then why people run and why people run half marathons and getting going in your first steps, whether you're brand new to running and you want to try something to exert yourself and really challenge yourself, or if you're an experienced runner. And what it does here is it talks about different plans that you can get into and that sort of thing. And then towards the end, it talks about if you're doing multiple races close together, and then creating your own plan, even using Hal Higdon himself to create your own Hal Higdon running plan. And so, you know, I recommend the book. I think it's a good book to read. I think it's an easy book for a lot of runners to read because a lot of the phrasing and the words and things like that are that's jargon that we know, and we've heard of. And so, yeah, you can find the book online. Hal Higdon's website, it's called Hal Higdon's Half Marathon Training. It's published by Human Kinetics, and it's a good book.
Yeah,
we'll have a link as well.
Hal does a good job, and as Hal would say, or you'd say to him, you know, his training programs are idiot-proof. I mean, they're and that's not a knock on anything. He does such a good job of articulating.
He makes it easy for the masses.
Yeah, he does a good job articulating the what's and the whys and the how comes in a training, and he does a good job, and you know, and he's not afraid to tell you that if you have to walk when you're training, here's the way to do it and do it efficiently. Yeah,
there's a whole section on that kind of stuff.
You know, he's not. Some people say
half marathon or walk.
Right. Yep.
Chapter 13.
So you know, there's a lot of people that will say, well, you're not really running a marathon if you have to walk. And Hal and many other of them saying, well, that's not true.
Yeah.
And stuff. So it's a good book.
Good book. It'll be on our website. We'll put a link on runiowa.org if you want the specific link. And again, Hal will be our guest for episode 100.
It'll be awesome.
So look forward to that this summer and talking to Hal. Okay, we're going to take our break. When we come back, we're going to have Mike J. from Next Level Iowa online with us, on the phone with us.
Cool.
And he does a lot of stuff with prep sports right now, Iowa high school athletes, track, cross country, that kind of thing. He's also
great information.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful interview. He announces for the Drake Relays. He announces for the Iowa high school co-ed track meet, and then he does other track meets as well.
I think he mentions he goes to over 30 different running events a year to announce.
Yeah, just to announce.
And that, so he is definitely a guy who has his finger on the pulse of collegiate and high school running.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll be back. Episode 96 of the Run Iowa podcast. All right, and welcome back to the Run Iowa podcast. On the line with us now, we have Mike J. from Next Level Iowa. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How about you?
We're doing well.
Doing wonderful. You might know Mike as an announcer for the Drake Relays or for the Iowa State track and field meets. It's always fun to have people that are famous on our podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Mike, tell us a little bit about Next Level Iowa to start with, and what exactly that is, and what you do with Next Level, and to promote the sport of running in the state of Iowa.
Well, Next Level Iowa was just something that came to mind when I got out of coaching. I was a high school coach for 26 years across country and track and field, and when I retired from that and just wanted to, I guess, keep my finger on the pulse more of what goes on in the state of Iowa and spread that news to people. I think we have a great product in our state with our athletes that compete in track and field and cross country at the next level, at the collegiate level and or professionally. Mm-hmm. So I started doing that just via Twitter. And then Jim Kirby and I teamed up and made it a website, and it's gone over great. And we try to provide as much of an up to date and live, so to speak, product for track and field fans across Iowa to take a look at and to follow their athletes. They're their parents or their former coaches. Sure. They're just track and field fans that want to know what kids are doing beyond high school and perhaps even beyond college.
So I'm sorry, Dave.
Nope.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought Dave was saying, how did you? I guess you said you started with the Twitter account, and just kind of keeping things up to date. What gave you the idea to do that? I guess I know as an somewhat NBA fan, I only watch the NBA right now because I know a few of the players from either when I was in college and they're still playing pros or local guys. What made you really seek out the Twitter handle and then go out there and help provide information for everybody? What led you to do that?
Well, there's not really a vehicle that did that.
Sure.
Just donating their time, or not donating, just concentrating on Iowa kids. It come out in the newspaper on a good day, 2 days after the event.
Right.
And so then I just found there was a lot of interest, and it's really cool to get replies back from people that, oh yeah, I remember that kid when he was in high school or she was in high school. Wonder what they were doing now, and that type of thing. And I think now we've got a lot of parents and fans that rely on what we provide for them. Like right now, the Division I track and field championships are going on in Eugene, Oregon,
mm-hmm.
and unless somebody has access to live results, which you can also you can get on your phone. And that type of thing, but you've got to search for who you're looking for. I try to follow that meet as close as I can and tweet out results for that our Iowa kids are competing in yesterday and today and Friday and Saturday. So that's why, I guess, for the original answer is there wasn't really a vehicle that gave people up to date, at the minute type results.
Sure. That's cool, and I think that's probably fair to say about most high school sports, other than the big two, football and basketball. You lose track of athletes that you see, whether it's somebody you've competed against as a high school athlete or coached against, and that. So you mentioned the NCAA championships out there in Oregon. So how are the Iowa natives and such doing?
Well, not as good as they'd all hoped to. Just to run down real quick, they've changed the format of the NCAA championships for Division I. On Wednesday was all men's events, Thursday all women, Friday all men, and Saturday all women. So there's not both genders now do not compete on the same day.
Okay.
But the Iowa men 4x1 qualified but did not make the final. They ran a new school record, but that just shows you the depth of the field. They ran 39-12 and did not make the final. Aaron Mallett of Iowa made the finals in the high hurdles. Marie Harris of Iowa did not make the finals in the 400. In the 4x4, Iowa made the finals. They ran two freshmen and two sophomores and made the final in the 4x4. And Reed Fisher of Drake ran the 10,000 last night and had a great race. He was in the top 3 for a good portion of the event. It went out, rather pedestrian pace and finished as such, but it came down to a kick. He finished 9th, just won 23 hundredths of a second shy of becoming a first-team All-American.
Wow.
But he had a great season. He was the Valley cross country champion, the Valley 3K and 5K champion, the Valley 10K and 5K champion outdoors. So he had an outstanding season for Drake, but it would have been awesome had he been a first-team All-American. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so there are a lot of things going on out there, and more today. Iowa State has entries today. Iowa with some entries as well, and so it's going to be another fun day of track and field.
I'm sitting here listening to all this, and I'm thinking to myself, what great opportunity for some of these kids. Dave and I are high school teachers, and we had, I think, 3 kids this year sign locally to go run somewhere, whether at Morningside or somewhere else within the state. And I'm listening to the events and things, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, running is really giving, or track and field is really giving, some of these kids opportunities that they wouldn't get. How hard is it? And you said with the collegiate runners, they didn't even make the cut, and it was their personal best. How hard is it to be elite at this level from your point of view, watching all the different Iowa kids get up and compete against everybody else?
Well, just to give you a little bit of some statistics going into answering this question,
sure.
In the national championships this year, counting for the outdoor season, junior college, NAIA, Division I, Division II, and Division III. We had 247 kids competing that were either former Iowa Preps or Iowa Collegiates competing at the national championships this spring. We've had 200, right now we have had 202 Iowa high school seniors who have signed to run, jump, or throw next fall at the collegiate level. Wow. 202 Iowa kids are going to be competing in track and field and or cross country at the collegiate level next year, new freshmen. That's so crazy. For our little state, that's pretty darn impressive.
Right.
Absolutely. Then that kind of takes the question. I don't know if you follow how other states in this area, how their athletes do, and how Iowa kids stack up against some of them. You know, when you think of track and field and you throw high school athletes out there, you know, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, California are always the big states that everybody knows that's where all the athletes come from, whether it's football or basketball or track and field. How does Iowa stack up with those big states?
Well, that's a great question, and I don't have any statistics on that other than to tell you that we've had a fair number of All-Americans. We've had national champions here just in the past few years. Chris Schweitzer, the former Dowling Prep, was a cross-country champion, won the 5K indoors, one of the favorites to win the 5,000 on Saturday. Shelby Houlihan from Sioux City East, a national champion at 1,500, an Olympian in the 5,000. Katie Flood from Dowling was a 1,500 champion. And we've had a number of All-Americans as well. Per capita, I think we fare very well. But, those bigger states obviously have more kids to offer. They have, their training conditions are perhaps a little bit better than what we have. Right. Some of those states don't have an indoor season because they run outdoors all the time. But I would, those numbers per capita would be very, very interesting. It'd be some pretty intense research. But I would have to guess, we hold our own. And
that's great.
It's, it's to see somebody like Reed Fisher last night from tiny little Drake University, although they're Division I, but it's not a very big school.
Right.
It's very hard to get in academically. And here he is right in the mix with 3 laps to go to perhaps even win the title. So that's pretty good stuff.
Absolutely. My question, my dad's a former coach and retired school administrator, and he was talking some years ago. We're kind of, even though I teach in Iowa, I grew up in Nebraska, so he's a big Nebraska fan. And anyway, he was looking at something in that year in the state of Texas, just for people who don't understand how athletics are different. In the state of Texas that year, I think there was, in Division I football players coming out of Texas, there was something like 600 and X amount of football players that signed for a Division I school that year. And he goes, we don't have 600, and in the state of Nebraska, there's not 640 seniors playing football.
Right.
And so that just kind of puts it in perspective how many more kids and athletes are in those states as compared to Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota up here. So to be able to say you compete is amazing.
Yeah, it is, and along those lines, but different. Iowa has a freshman on their 4x4, a young man by the last name of Ogwu, came from Texas to Iowa to play football. Outstanding quarter miler in Texas, didn't get a lot of looks for track and field, but going to be a defensive back at Iowa. He quit football, absolutely cut the ties, and is track only. And he's turned into a 45-second quarter miler on their 4x4. Here he's going to be an All-American in track and field. So, if you're a really good football player in Texas, your track talents may get overlooked a little bit. But they find out how much they miss the sport. And long story short, he turned in his football gear, put some spikes on. Now he's going to be an All-American.
I just want to ask, and maybe you don't have the greatest answer for this, but maybe you do. You kind of mentioned we're talking kind of the football and the track crossover. It seems to be those are two sports that a lot of college athletes could cross over in. Is maybe a football and then track. Is that I guess my question would be, is that something that a lot of coaches would think would be a good thing to let their athletes go back and forth? I know when we were in high school, and we're promoting it now in high school, is don't be a one-sport athlete. But when they're getting up into those elite levels, is that something they're still doing, is promoting cross-athletic sporting events?
Well, it's great you brought that up, because I had that discussion yesterday with one of my sons, and that is, the University of Iowa, and I just use University of Iowa because I live in Iowa City.
Sure.
The University of Iowa's got two of the top throwers in the nation coming there to play football next year. The Epinesa boy from Chicago is arguably the best high school discus thrower in the country. He's coming there to play football as a five-star football recruit.
Oh, wow.
And then Tristan Wirfs from Mount Vernon, who won the Drake Relay shot and discus title, the best thrower in Iowa this year. And he's a four-star recruit, and he's going to Iowa to play football. Well, there have been people within the University of Iowa, whether it be on the track side or the football side, that have said these kids can and will do both sports because they want to.
Sure.
And I'm anxious to see if that really pans out.
Right.
As you guys know, at Division I, especially in football, and basketball's got to be a close second, it's a 365-day-a-year sport. Has to be.
Yes, it is.
So whether or not a football coach is willing to give up that kid to compete in track and field in the spring when spring football is going on, that's going to be a tough go. Trevor Ryan, who's at Iowa State, he went to UNI and transferred to Iowa State. Iowa State allows him, he was all Big 12 last year on special teams, won 5 state titles at OABCIG, and Iowa State allows him to do both. He runs track and does a very good job for the Cyclones, and also plays football. You got to go back to, Tim. People will say, well, Tim Dwight did both at Iowa. Well,
right.
Tim really excelled at track after his football eligibility was done.
Right.
Yeah.
People don't remember he returned that kick in the Super Bowl, and then came back and ran track for Iowa that spring, and earned All-American honors and a Big Ten champion and that type of thing. So, it happens, not real common. I told my son, one Iowa Hawkeye track kid that really made it big in football and only had one touchdown pass in his career, and that was Warren Holloway, who caught the pass from Drew Tate in the bowl game several years ago.
Right.
And Holloway
Oh, right.
was an all Big Ten indoor sprinter. So he didn't run much outdoors, but he ran indoors, and then gave up the outdoor season for spring football. So long story short, I'm anxious to see what these throwers do. That will really that'll really test as to whether or not these kids are allowed to be or want to be two-sport athletes
Right.
at that level. That's got to be an unbelievable time commitment.
I can't even imagine how much practice time would go into trying to do both of those in college at D1 thing. Question: so you've been doing Drake relays, state track meet, and stuff. Everybody wants to know what's one of the most memorable moments in your career of doing the announcing at either one or both of those events. I mean, we always have our favorites, and they're not always the same.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm fortunate enough I do about 35 track meets around the country during the year, cross country and indoor and outdoor track. And people say, what's your favorite meet? Thinking it's going to be the Olympic trials or it's going to be an NCAA championship. Our co-ed state meet is amazing. And so to pick an event, man, one thing that really comes to mind, and I hate to say it's my favorite, but one that's recent that really comes to mind is the Ames boys 4x8 a couple of years ago when they set the all-time best, a record that I saw set a number of years ago, and I wondered if it would ever get broken, and they shattered it. So,
Right.
Cedar Rapids Jefferson girls breaking 140 in the 4x2, still the only Iowa high school team to do that. Isaiah Trousel of West Burlington Notre Dame this year winning his third. He moved up from 2A to 3A and still won his third state title in both the 200 and the 100. Every year to me, as a fan, you think it'll never get better, and the next year it seems to. So there've been outstanding stuff each and every year, and one thing I love relay events, and you always hope that whoever has the stud anchor leg, they get the baton about 30 meters back and watch somebody down. But so those type of things are always great memories.
I guess for the last question, I want to touch on that a little bit is, where do you see Iowa athletics and track and field going in the future? How do you think they might improve? And, we talked about all the signees and being a competitor with recruiting across the country. Where do you see Iowa athletes in track and field across country in the future?
Well, it's interesting you brought that up. I saw something somebody put on Twitter the other day that was really bashing our state track meet. That we don't really have track fans. We've just got family members that go and watch their family members. Well, I would like that person to bring that up to those family members or the kids and ask, if that's really true. And to be a true track fan, you don't have to love every single event.
Sure.
I think I'm as big a track fan as anybody, and the only meets I go to are the ones I announce. I don't go to that. Doesn't make me less of a fan, but to see where Iowa kids are, I think it's somewhat cyclical. But the throwers we had this year on the boys' side, Iowa was as good as any state in the country. We had 5 throwers that threw over 60 feet in the boys' shot. We had something like 11 that threw over 170 feet in the discus. So it's somewhat cyclical. I think our distance events, the cream of the crop, can run with anybody, and they've proven that. With Joy Ripslinger at Davenport Assumption or Ryan Murphy at Linn-Mar, they'll be running in the New Balance Outdoor Nationals coming up soon, and so I think we're going to. I'd hate to think that we have plateaued. But if we have plateaued, we have plateaued at a very high level.
Sure.
And I think, each year you're going to see where one event or 2 events may be a lot better than they were the year before, and now they're our best events and that type of thing. I don't think that we have, you look at the South. Texas has because of the size of their state, has a fair number of outstanding distance runners. But you think of Texas as sprinters.
Right.
And I think when you look at Iowa, I'm not sure that you pick out one particular event area and say this is what Iowa's known for. I think we're very good across the board, and it's a little bit of a up and down, if you will, each and every year as to which event the group that is the best.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Mike J., you're at nextleveliowa.com. You're on Twitter at MikeJTrackXC as well. Thank you so much for being on our podcast today.
Well, I thank you guys for having me on and a chance to talk about track and field in Iowa. And it's a big weekend with the Division I championship. So thank you for you guys for what you do for our sports. We sure appreciate it.
Welcome back to the podcast. Sorry. Thanks to Mike again. And we look forward to, actually, I confirmed after we talked to him, talking to him in the fall again about cross country.
Yes.
So that'll be cool to talk about cross country in the state of Iowa. We mentioned with him just there, we have some high school athletes from our area heading out, and I'm sure you guys that are all listening have some too, that are heading out to run collegiately at different levels. Yeah. And so running is one of those things where if you're good, you're going to be seen.
Right.
And so he mentioned that with the Drake kid over at the Outdoor Championships.
Speaking of that,
sure.
I have to throw a little sidebar in there. Friday, I think it was last Friday, I went out to eat with my kids, and we stopped by a local place, and I was sitting there, and a former student of ours from TJ, I won't throw his name out there. He might not want everybody knowing what he's doing. He's playing college football.
Okay.
He started off here in Council Bluffs.
Nice.
At Iowa Western, had a good football career, and then he's off at a 4-year university out east, and he's playing football. And he was back for the summer for a short time, and he happened to walk by my table, and I hollered at him, and he came over, and we were talking, and what's going on. Anyway, story short, and I think this is fun. He was a very good track athlete here at TJ. He could have probably ran track any place if he wanted to.
You'll have to tell me his name afterwards. Yeah.
And anyway, his comment, and this is why I'm not going to use him. He said, "No matter what you do, running sucks."
Yeah.
and which was fun, and he doesn't. But that's what he's paying for school running.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not track, but he's running on a football field, and he's returns punts, returns kicks. Yeah. So everything he does on the football field is because of his running.
Sure. Yeah.
And he would, he talked about Coach Nielsen and how being pushed and to make a better athlete and stuff. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Is that even people, and I love to run, but there's a whole lot of it that when people say running sucks, I get it. Whether it's I'm spending 2 or 3 hours a day doing it for training, there's those negatives. So kudos to everybody out there who's doing it. And we were talking about Hal's book, but the website and that for Mike J's.
Sure, Next Level
stuff,
Iowa. Yep.
Next Level Iowa. There's a guy who knows who's running, and it doesn't get the recognition it deserves. That's what I was conversation is. Sure. Here's a kid who does it, and he would go out and still run.
Right.
If he wasn't playing football, and would still say, it sucks. But part of the reason a high school kid or a college kid say that it sucks is because there is no recognition to it.
Right.
He'll be recognized for what he does playing football.
Sure, yeah.
And
a lot of times coaches use running as punishment. We've talked about that in the past.
Yeah.
And so it's already ingrained from a young age. Like I have baseball players in my classroom. They're like, oh, we lost and then we had to run pulls.
Right.
And it's like, well, that sucks. Why not run pulls first and then build that stamina? But that's a whole different story.
But so go check out his Next Level Running.
Yeah, nextleveliowa.com.
Yeah, nextleveliowa.com. And people who are out, high school athletes, what they're doing in the state of Iowa. And then when you run into one or you see one and you might know who they are and just don't know that they're an elite runner, say hi, say congratulations, because they're doing something that 90% of the population out there doesn't want to do.
Right, yeah.
And they're doing it really well.
Right, absolutely. Cool. Great conversation. Let's go to the of the weeks.
All right. So
I'm going to let you got the tip of the week.
So the tip of the week is 8 tips. 8 ways to stay cooler during summer runs, and since we're already like into the heat part of the summer, which is we had spring in February.
A whole week of spring.
Yeah, we had spring was in February around here, and we went on a vacation in February, and we went to Florida, and it was warmer in Omaha than it was in South Florida, and then tennis season starts, and it rained, it snowed on us, it was cold. We didn't have any spring, and now it jumped straight into 90 plus. It's supposed to be like 97, 98 this weekend. So anyway, eight ways to stay cooler during summer runs. So number 1, run when the conditions are the coolest. No brainer. You're going to either have to run mornings or evenings if you want to avoid the heat and humidity, and that's a good thing. You don't want to get stuck out running when it's really hot because it's detrimental to your health. The second one, hydrate properly before, during, and after your runs. Warmer temperatures mean you're going to have to increase your fluid intake. So you want to just make sure that you're following a good plan for rehydration. Carry water with you, whether it's in a fanny pack or a water belt or something. Know where you can stop and get water if you have a route that you can stop in a gas station or someplace and grab those extra fluids. If you go, this is all coming from Runner's World, so if you find the article, it also has a link to a hydration page for a whole bunch of tips on that. Run near water, rivers, lakes, streams, oceans. It will be slightly cooler, and there's generally more breeze, so you'll feel a little better running in those areas. Try to stick to the grass and the shade. Running out on the concrete, asphalt, it makes the temperatures infinitely more brutal than if you can run out on a dirt trail in the shade, out in the trees is better. Wear light-colored, loose-fitting clothing will help you stay cool. Always use sunscreen. Wear the right headgear, something that's moisture-wicking, light fabric, that's not too snug but stays on there. Provide a little shade. And then the last one, this is the one that I didn't know or haven't ever thought about is pre-cooling. Lower your body temperature before you run, about an hour before you run, will enable your body to withstand those warm temperatures, because your core temperature will start at a lower point, and it will take a lot longer for that core temperature to increase. So try pre-cooling. It can improve your hot weather performance by 3% or more. So doing all the stuff, you can get an ice bath or ice vest. You can also, drink cold beverages. You can do a lot of different things, but try pre-cooling.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds like some good tips.
Awesome. You can find the whole article again at our website, RunIowa.org. Look at the episode listing.
Yeah, I was wondering. I've never tried this.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've done the post-run cooling, but I wonder if we went down to the local tavern that says they have the coldest beer in town, that would be pre-cooling.
Well,
a
I will
pitcher
tell you,
of cold beer.
I will tell you, Dam to Dam was just run recently,
Yes.
and it was a very hot Dam to Dam.
Yes, it was.
And I noticed that Ryan, our buddy Ryan, was running
Right.
it, and Dam to Dam had said do the pre-cooling thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hadn't really heard of that before,
Right.
and then you mentioned it here as well. So I know being hydrated is important, but being pre-cooled.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I have the race of the week, but I'm going to change it up a little
Right.
bit. I'm not going to tell you about an upcoming race. I'm actually going to review last episode's race of the week. My family and I went out there and did the Seuss on the Loose run, brought to you here in Council Bluffs. And it was a great time. It was a smaller event. It was a timed event. There were winners to the event. But more importantly, it was very family friendly. It sucked. It was hot. But the reason I wanted to do this review is because my 6-year-old we did the 1 mile family run around the track. There was also the 5K. But we did the 1 mile thing, and it was so kid friendly. I just want to say thank you to those guys. Basically what we did was they started the 5K runners. They took off around the track and then went off and did the 5K on the trail around us, and then came back and finished on the track as well. But the 1 milers, the family, what they call them, the stroller carts,
Right.
stroller derby or something
Right.
like that, with all the families, was just fun. It was just 4 laps around the track. But every lap the kids got to stop and put a bead on their, they got a necklace and they put a bead on their necklace. And then when they had all 4 beads or whatever, they got a book, a Dr. Seuss book or
Cool.
something like that. So it was very cool. And my daughter, whom,
Just one of them?
we all went,
Okay.
but my oldest daughter, who will be 7 soon, she wanted to run.
Yeah.
I said, okay, go ahead. Like, I had no qualms about her just going
Right.
and running and doing this. And so she would run like 100 or maybe 200, and then she'd walk, and then
Right.
she would just go. But absolutely nothing from me, nothing from Mom. We were just there.
Right. Yeah.
But she just wanted to run. And
Cool.
I loved seeing her out on that track and doing that. And so the opportunity for her to do that with no pressure, absolutely none at all. There was one little boy that wanted to run the whole thing, and he did. He kicked ass. It was
Right.
awesome. He was probably maybe 8,
Yeah.
but he ran around the whole thing. That was awesome to see my kid just deciding to run and do this. And she, I will tell you, she has a way better runner stride than I do. She was kicking butt. And so the opportunity to do that, to go inside, to get some prizes and raffles and things like that to help a cause in our local area is always fun as well. So I would like to say to the Family Inc. who put on that run and
Cool.
the other sponsors that helped out, they did a great job for our community, and there were lots of families there that benefited from the run.
That's awesome.
So the race of the week was a good one last week. Well, I'm biased because I went and
Right.
had fun. We also, just because I am biased and had fun, my daughter who ran, she won best costume for kids.
So what was she dressed up as?
Batgirl. Yeah,
Of course.
Of course she was. I mean, come on. And then as a family, we also won best family costume prize.
What did
So
you dress up as?
I was the Lorax. I wore orange and then had the big yellow mustache.
Cool.
So my wife was Wonder Woman. The older daughter was Batman. The younger daughter was Catboy from PJ Masks.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah. And then my youngest, the brand new baby, we had a really old onesie from one of our friends from when Faith was a baby.
Yeah.
So a 7-year-old onesie that was a hop on pop thing. So
Okay.
Dr. Seuss themed. And so so we got that.
Yeah, good for you.
So that was fun. Yeah, it was a good time.
And then you played kick golf.
Yeah,
too?
so I went out for my anniversary and played some kick golf.
The night before this, right?
Yeah, so my right leg was just killing me because.
So what is kick golf and where did you play?
Sure, absolutely. Before we do that, I will tell you real quick. Check out all of the race of the week and all the information on our show's information page from RunIowa. Make sure to check that out.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, we did the soccer golf thing, the foot golf thing. It's in Papillion over in Nebraska.
Okay.
And so it's awesome. It's fun. It sucks though. It's hard because I'm not a kicker. I'm not.
Right.
I don't do the soccer thing very well. But I do it once in a while. And so what we decided, because we're not great kickers,
right?
We decided we would do a drop kick off the tee. So like you punt the
Right.
ball. So we punted the ball off the tee and then we'd have to kick it in.
Right.
There are no there's not par. You just do it. You just go. And it's on a par 3 course, so you're playing with real golfers. So we're waiting on the tee box for these two guys in front of us. Yeah. So
Papio Greens, is that where it is?
Yeah. The par 3 little putt places there too. Yep. So, but it was really fun. We would drop kick and go, and just like my real golf game, I hooked everything.
Right.
I
saw the video. You had video posted.
Yeah, my wife put it up there. So, but we paid for. We had a coupon to have 18 holes for the cost of 9 holes or whatever it was, and we got done with 9 holes. And my wife, she isn't great at kicking either. So she would always toe kick it, off the front of her toe. So her toes were killing her. And I used that excuse perfectly to say, oh, yeah, we'll stop for you. But really, my right thigh was just killing me from all the kicking I was doing. So you NFL kickers out there, you punters, oh, my goodness. But it was fun. It was a good time, and we had fun doing it.
Awesome.
So, all right. Let's take our last break. We'll come back, wrap things up here.
Sounds good.
All right, Dave. Any last thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
No, I hope everybody has a great summer out there running and having fun.
Yeah, and be careful in the heat.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. Like I said
got
earlier,
warm fast.
we got a whole week of spring. It seems like, and so be careful in the heat.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's it for this episode. Catch us in 2 weeks again, on the episode, and check out our website RunIowa.org, where we're going to be posting a lot of different stuff as well between our episode times.
Cool.
Happy trails.
Happy trails to you until